Tennessee from Flute Soundscapes again, and welcome to the second part of your video series of how to play the flute. So last video we just focused on the head joint alone and how to make a sound. Today we'll be putting the rest of the flute together. So there's a couple of things to consider when you put the flute together. First of all is alignment of the keys with the mouthpiece. So you look at where the hole is of the mouthpiece and it must line up with this line of keys here. Alright, so you look down the flute and make sure the middle of that hole is in line with the middle of the keys. So that's the mouthpiece and the body of the flute. Now when it comes to the foot joint, if you can see, this little part aligns the middle of this bottom key. Alright, so as you can see around here, we've got a side key here, so you turn it and you'll see this metal line here aligns with the body of the flute right in the middle. Alright, so that's alignment. Now we've learned how to make a sound. Now we talk about how to hold the flute. Now the flute is one of those instruments that if you start off with a bad posture, you can end up with neck problems and shoulder problems and all sorts of other physical problems. So there is just a few things to consider. You want to try and hold the flute as naturally as possible, so you want to find that balance point. So with your index finger on your left hand, you just place the flute resting there. So lightly hold the flute with your right hand and your thumb goes underneath there. And then your second finger, your index finger, which in flute terms is actually your first finger, but let's just talk about the index finger for now. The index finger goes on this key here. Alright, and then your third finger it skips this key and goes onto the next key, and then your fourth finger goes onto this key, and your fifth finger goes onto this key. Right. Now, also, the back of the flute, this is where the thumb goes. This little key here, the thumb will access these two keys. It slides back and forth. Alright, so when you hold the flute, if you can see where my thumb is, so it's resting on the index finger, you have this sort of pincer grip for these keys here. Alright, now before we learn anything else, we'll learn how to play the note B. So you press this key and this key. Alright, now let's talk about the right hand. This pinky finger operates this key here as well as these keys, so it slides back and forth, but we focus on this key for now. Alright, and so your thumb will go basically underneath the index finger on your right hand. Alright, but we're not going to touch any of these keys to start off with. We're just going to focus on the grip and the pinky finger pressing down on that key there. Alright, so let's play the note B. So we blow just as we did without the rest of the flute, and you'll get, hopefully, a sound. Another thing to consider when you're playing the flute is your posture, because it's kind of an awkward instrument where there's twisting involved, so that can put a little bit of pressure on the spine and shoulder and neck. So you want to be as relaxed as possible when you play. So you hold up, you find that balance point with your index finger in your left hand and the thumb in the right hand, and then just bring the flute to you. Do not go to the flute like this, because that's already you're going to end up suffering some neck pain and headaches because you're leaning into the flute. So you want to bring the flute to you, and then you want to relax your shoulders. Now you are going to be slightly twisting to the left, all right, because this shoulder's going to come around, so it's going to feel a little bit more open if you just slightly twist. But posture is something that can't really be taught on a video, and it's much better to have one-on-one feedback from a teacher to really see what you're doing with your posture. Having good posture is also important for producing a good sound on the flute, because if your posture is bad, then you're just not going to get an open sound from the flute, or it's going to be more difficult to get an open sound. So we just focus on mostly that in the second lesson, because your posture, the sound, and the position of your fingers on the keys are very much a basic foundation for learning how to play the flute. So thanks for watching this second video in the 3-part series of learning how to play the flute.